I talk a lot about branding and I talk a lot about building a brand. And predominantly, I come at this from a design perspective because that's what I do. I help people design the content that supports their brand and helps them to build their brand. And mostly I do this over on Instagram, but a lot of my work is seen across social media. But one of the things that I often don't talk about is the language that we use within our brand. Now, to be clear, I'm not coming at this from the perspective of a copywriter because I am not a copywriter, nor am I talking about the language that you use in your content. I'm talking about the language that you use in the framing of your brand for yourself and for your customers. And that will naturally impact the copy that you use or the content that you create. So, understanding sometimes some very significant grammatical nuances can massively impact how you perceive and feel about your own brand, and therefore how other people also see and feel about your brand. So, the lesson I'm going to start with today, very randomly, is a little lesson about future tense. Now, you may or may not know, but I spent 15 years living in Japan. And for a large portion of that time, about 10 years of that time, I was teaching English as a foreign language. And I worked with children as young as one, right? I'm not lying. I worked with children as young as one, up to, people who had been retired for many, many years. Um, so, very much older people. And I worked with people in all walks of life. I worked with students, I worked with teenagers, I worked with people who were homemakers, I worked with businessmen, I worked with CEOs, I worked with people who traveled the world, I worked with multi-billion-dollar companies. You name it, I worked with them in that time. And I loved what I did. I was passionate about what I did because actually I love language. Love it. So I geek over it, I geek about it, I study it, I learn about it, I enjoy it, but it's not my specialty. It's not something that I do as a profession. I do brands as a profession. Anyway, one of the questions that used to come up a lot, particularly when teaching intermediate students, was what is the difference between will and going to? And that's what we're going to look at today. So I just came across a post, something that's inspired this today. I came across a post on Threads, and it was something along the lines of replace the word should with the word will. And understandably, there was a lot of agreement, a lot of acknowledgement, a lot of people who recommend the same thing or talk about the same thing. Because obviously, if you're going to say, I really should, I should email the client about this proposal is very different to I will email the client about this proposal. So anytime you are, thinking about what you're going to do for that day, or anytime you are planning your future, or anytime you are talking about work that has to happen or tasks that need completing, replacing the word should with will is going to give you more definiteness of purpose, should we say. Right, so that goes with it, and it gives us that kind of drive to, or the impulse to achieve that task. So saying that you will do something. But what is the difference between will and going to? And does it really matter? Well, yes, it does. So very, very often, particularly in spoken English and for native speakers, the two terms are used interchangeably without very much thought going into it. But there is a very significant difference between the two. And the difference is the intention, or when the intention was set. So, for example, if I say, I will go shopping, or I say I'm going to go shopping, they have very different sets of intentions. The first one, I will go shopping, is a decision I have recently made. The second one, I'm going to go shopping, is a decision that I've thought about. I've already planned that I'm going to do it. The end of the sentence is possibly I'm going to go shopping this afternoon, or I'm going to go shopping on Thursday. As soon as you use the phrase going to, You have planned to do it. You have planned to accomplish the task. It's not something you're going to do at some point randomly in the future. So, this is really important when you're talking about your brand. So, very often I will say that when you're building your brand, there are some core aspects that is very, very often forgotten, and that is the purpose behind your brand and the promise that you're going to make. So, a simple shift that you can make today is to think about the future of your brand, where it is it's going, what it is you set out to achieve, what it is you're setting out to change, and commit to something. Say what you're going to do, not what you will do in some vague vision board thing. What are you going to do? What are you going to change? What impact are you going to have? How are you going to help your customers? And write those things down, because essentially, as soon as you do that, you have made a promise statement, and you are at a very crucial point in building your brand or growing your brand and giving your brand a definiteness of purpose. Yes, my lovely, I'm coming. Oh, sorry, my son's knocking on the door. I'm just live on the internet. um, and very quickly, you'll find as soon as you start talking about the things that your brand is going to do, you will feel more confident talking about the accomplishments that your brand is setting out to achieve, because they're no longer vague. They're no longer like random decisions that you've just come up with, like, oh, I'll go live today, or oh, I'll write a post about this, or oh, I'll create this new product, or I'll create this new service, or I'll make a course. These are all kind of vague things that you may or may not do. And when you do them, there's no definitive reason behind them. But if you change the phrase "I'm going to," suddenly your brand has purpose. So, can a mini grammar lesson change your brand? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. Take care and bye bye.